Others among you faced a brutal foe on a cold Korean peninsula. This year, as we mark the 60th anniversary of that conflict, I will be proud to travel to the Republic of Korea in November to pay tribute to our veterans of the Korean War. Many of you served in the jungles of Vietnam. You also served with honor, exemplary dedication, and courage, but were often shunned when you came home. That was a national disgrace and it must never happen again. And that's why we're making sure our veterans from today's wars are shown the respect and the dignity they deserve. And whether you served in the Gulf to free a captive Kuwait or fought in the streets of Mogadishu or stopped an ethnic slaughter in the Balkans, you too are part of an unbroken line of service stretching across 2 centuries. For you, coming home was the beginning of another battle, the battle to recover. You fought to stand again and to walk again and to work again. You fought for each other and for the benefits and treatment you had earned. You became leaders in our communities, in our companies, and our country, including a former Vietnam vet and senator. Max Cleland, who reminded us that America's disabled veterans are strong at the broken places. Today, your legacy of service is carried on by a new generation of Americans. Some stepped forward in a time of peace, not foreseeing years of combat. Others stepped forward in this time of war, knowing they could be sent into harm's way. For the past 9 years, in Afghanistan and Iraq, they have borne the burdens of war. They, and their families, have faced the greatest test in the history of our all-volunteer force. Serving tour after tour, year after year. Through their extraordinary service, they have written their own chapter in the American story. And by any measure, they have earned their place among the greatest of generations. Now, one of those chapters is nearing an end. As a candidate for president, I pledge to bring the war in Iraq to a responsible end. Shortly after taking office, I announced our new strategy for Iraq and for a transition to full Iraqi responsibility. And I made it clear that by August 31, 2010, America's combat mission in Iraq would end. And that is exactly what we are doing as promised and on schedule. Already, we have closed or turned over to Iraq hundreds of bases. We're moving out millions of pieces of equipment in one of the largest logistics operations that we've seen in decades. By the end of this month, we'll have brought more than 90,000 of our troops. Home from Iraq. Since I took office, more than 90,000 have come home. Today, even as terrorists try to derail Iraq's progress because of the sacrifices of our troops and their Iraqi partners. Violence in Iraq continues to be near the lowest it's been in years. And next month, we will change our military mission from combat to supporting and training Iraqi security forces. In fact, in many parts of the country, Iraqis have already taken the lead for security. As agreed to with the Iraqi government. We will maintain a transitional force until we remove all our troops from Iraq by the end of next year. And during this period, our forces will have a focused mission supporting and training Iraqi forces. Partnering with Iraqis in counter-terrorism missions, and protecting our civilian and military efforts. These are dangerous tasks. There are still those with bombs and bullets who will try to stop Iraq's progress. And the hard truth is we have not seen the end of American sacrifice in Iraq. But make no mistake, our commitment in Iraq is changing from a military effort led by our troops to a civilian effort led by our diplomats. And as we mark the end of America's combat mission in Iraq, a grateful America must pay tribute to all who served there. Remember, our nation has had vigorous debates about the Iraq War. There are patriots who supported going to war, and patriots who opposed it. But there has never been any daylight between us when it comes to supporting the more than one. Million Americans in uniform who have served in Iraq far more than any conflict since Vietnam. These men and women from across our country have done more than meet the challenges of this young century. Through their extraordinary courage and confidence and commitment. These troops and veterans have proven themselves as a new generation of American leaders. And while our country has sometimes been divided, they have fought together as one. While other individuals and institutions have shirked responsibility, they have welcomed responsibility. While it was easy to be daunted by overwhelming challenges, The generation that has served in Iraq has overcome every test before them. They took to the skies and sped across deserts in the initial charge into Baghdad. And today we're joined by an infantryman who was there as part of the 101st Airborne Division. Sergeant Nicholas Bernardi is here. When invasion gave way to insurgency, our troops persevered. Block by block, city by city, from Baghdad to Fallujah. As a driver in a transportation company, this soldier endured constant attacks but never wavered in his mission, and we thank Sergeant Dan Nabe. Thank you, Dan. When terrorists and militias plunged Iraq into sectarian war, our troops adapted and adjusted. Restoring order and effectively defeating Al-Qaeda in Iraq on the battlefield. And among those who served in those pivotal days was a scout. With the 1st Cavalry Division Specialist Matt Seidel. Matt. For each of these men and women there are countless others. And we honor them all, our young enlisted troops and non-commissioned officers who are the backbone of our military. The National Guardsmen and reservists who served in unprecedented deployments. More women tested by combat than in any war in American history. Including a Marine here today, Sergeant Patricia Ruiz. Patricia. I teased. Patricia. I said she looks like she's still in high school. But she's a Marine. And we salute the families back home. They too have sacrificed in this war. That's why my wife, Michelle, and the Vice President's wife, Dr. Jill Biden, have made it their mission to make sure America takes care of our remarkable military families, including our veterans. Now, this summer, tens of thousands of our troops in Iraq are coming home. Last week, Vice President Biden was at Fort Drum to help. Welcome back, members of the legendary 10th Mountain Division. Families are being reunited at bases across the country. From Fort Bragg in North Carolina to Fort Riley in Kansas to Fort Lewis in Washington. And in this season of homecomings, every American can show their gratitude to our patriots who served in Iraq. As we do, we are humbled by the profound sacrifice that has been rendered. Each of the veterans I have mentioned carried with them the wounds of this war. And as a nation, we will honor forever all who gave their lives that last true measure of devotion in service in Iraq. Soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen active, Guard, Reserve. Even as we end the war in Iraq, even as we welcome home so many of our troops. Others are still deployed in Afghanistan. So I want to remind everyone, it was Afghanistan where Al-Qaeda plotted and trained to murder 3. Innocent people on September 11th. It is Afghanistan and the tribal regions of Pakistan where terrorists have launched other attacks against us and our allies. and if Afghanistan were to be engulfed by an even wider insurgency. Al-Qaeda and its terrorist affiliates would have even more space to plan their next attack. And as President of the United States, I refuse to let that happen. The effort in Afghanistan has been long and been difficult. And that's why, after years in which the situation had deteriorated, I announced a new strategy last December. A military effort to break the Taliban's momentum and train Afghan forces so that they can take the lead for their security. And a civilian effort to promote good governance and development that improves the lives of the Afghan people. And deeper cooperation with Pakistan to root out terrorists on both sides of the border. We will continue to face huge challenges in Afghanistan. But it's important that the American people know that we are making progress, and we are focused on goals that are clear and achievable. On the military front, nearly all the additional forces that I ordered to Afghanistan are now in place. Along with our Afghan and international partners. We are going on the offensive against the Taliban, targeting their leaders, challenging them in regions where they had free rein. And training Afghan national security forces. Our thoughts and prayers are with all our troops risking their lives for our safety in Afghanistan. And on the civilian front, we're insisting on greater accountability. And the Afghan government has taken concrete steps to foster development and combat corruption. And to put forward a reintegration plan that allows Afghans to lay down their arms.